A major graffiti bust in Roseville, police going undercover and infiltrating a tagging crew believed to be responsible for more than $100,000 in damage.
Graffiti everywhere, and as soon as we get one area cleaned up, it's just right back again. It's a constant battle out here.
Producing
Some people see graffiti as a form of vandalism. However, when you see the work of artists such as Andy Birch, who created this colourful example, it is referred to as street art. Before talking to Andy, we wanted to know what the local authorities' attitude was towards graffiti. The Cabinet Member on the Environment for Conway County Borough Council is Mike Priestley. First of all, we asked Mike about his views on graffiti.
On the whole, personally, there's good graffiti and there's bad graffiti. To me, the bad graffiti is something that upsets people. For example, it could say something about possibly you, me, and some obscene language, which I think is unacceptable. On the other hand, there's good graffiti, and I perhaps touch on it a little bit later, where we've done a couple of projects in Llandudno Junction, which I think are absolutely fantastic. So in the right place, it's good, with the good quality and what have you. But you know, there's a minority that spoil it for the majority, I feel. Well, I think what we've got to look at is investing in workshops. I think we're going to talk possibly about a guy called Andy Birch, dimeone, brilliant artist. I've worked with Andy now on a couple of projects, and I've got a couple more projects to come in to work with him on. And I think that's the way forward, is having graffiti and graffiti lessons in the right place. My overall view, Conway, it's not too bad, but again, I think we need to work with the artists to perhaps give it a bit more recognition, and then give the areas up for this type of art.
Andy Birch was kind enough to come into our studio for an interview. Firstly, we asked him how he got into graffiti.
I got into graffiti, well, I saw it when it was quite small. I was probably about 9 or 10. I went past my first graffiti piece, rather crudely sprayed on a wall on the way to school. It was of a giant ghetto blaster that someone had put "Hip Hop Don't Stop." And as a little kid, I went past it and I was amazed. I was like, wow, how did they do that? Is that allowed? And I think with graffiti, the biggest problem has been in the past, you know, when people just put names everywhere in tags. Plus you get the offensive graffiti. So there's always that element that people are going to come past. They don't want to look at that. I think people always love graffiti. There's a lot of people, like I'm in my 30s, so I was there kind of with the tail end of the first wave from like North Wales, the North Wales scene. There were guys who were doing it before me who had really started the ball rolling, and they knew the stuff before I came along. I think as the way it goes, the younger kids come in and then they pick up the way it works and how to do graffiti, and they put their own like new twist on it. And it's nice because you see these people coming along, and it can cause problems sometimes, but yeah, there's like a wave that keeps coming, and then you get a few come and get into it, and then they go through that stage, and then they come back to it when they're a bit older, like I have, you know, and keep going, hopefully. I think though, if there's a well-crafted piece of artwork, I think people will not be able to deny that it's a good piece of art if it's done well. And that's a firm belief I've got. If someone comes along and sees a really good piece of art, even if it's not their cup of tea, they might turn around and go, well, it looks good, I don't understand it, but it looks good. They have a bit more appreciation than maybe they would have before for the rubbish, you know. There's always that reward of completing a job successfully, whether it's a commercial piece for somebody or a private commission, or whether it's my own work, just painting on a wall. Yeah, there's always that feeling of success of doing something, but there's always that need to kind of improve and better myself all the time. I never feel I've achieved the ultimate piece yet. Probably if I did, I'd be bored of what I was doing, you know, and then you lose the fun, and I think that's a big thing. You've got to have the fun element, you've got to enjoy what you do.
Someone who worked closely with Andy on the Old Colwyn Bridge project is graffiti artist Japh. We asked Japh, how did you first get into graffiti?
I started when I was about 11 or 12. I'd seen like some hip hop videos on TV, and they were all sort of music video based then. So all the graffiti in the background, like that, like the idea, and then did some little doodles, nothing like, you know, proper stuff. But yeah, it was a bit of fun. It's nice when you get respect from people, and with some of the with all the legal stuff that we do, you get mixed generations. You get little kids saying, "Oh, it's amazing, it's amazing," and you get their parents equally impressed. And then you might get a grandparent come past, and then you expect them to be a bit sort of, you know, angry about it to begin with. But most of the time, they're really not. It depends on the art as well. Depends how aggressive the painting is, and you know, have you put characters on? And because people like to see characters because they like to relate to the eyes. If they can see the eyes on something, that's you know, makes them a lot happier. I think it's really hard because being an artist, it's like you never ever really finish. You know, you could keep going on the whole thing again and again. Sometimes when it's going right, it's the best thing in the world, and you could, you know, do it forever. When it's going really bad, you just want to walk away.
If you would like to get involved in the Llandudno Junction Graffiti Workshop, contact Councillor Mike Priestley on 01492 582 581. And don't forget your spray cans.
Don't think it's vandalism if it's used in the right context, because there's like such an eclectic range of artwork out there, and it's actually really good, like, for everyone to see. Because if an artist is that dedicated, he'll go home and like research what he's actually going to draw, and they put so much effort into a piece, and he does it, and it turns out really well. And it's just art, and it's just sharing it with the world. I don't think it's vandalism at all.
I consider it more a street art than vandalism. You see them around everywhere, and most of them look pretty cool. But I hate it when you see like one like perfect graffiti wall, and then it's just got "Daz was here 2K8" on it. I hate that, but if it's art, then it's good. I love it.
If an artist is confident enough to put their work out where everyone can see it, then they should be able to. It's inspiring.
Street art, yeah, because not everyone can get their work into galleries, so it's pretty good when you get it on the streets and stuff, so everyone can just see it whenever.
Some forms of graffiti, I think, are mindless, are kind of acts of mindless vandalism, but other forms are they're really good, really arty. I really enjoy looking at them.
It's good because it adds character to the street, and like, it can be quite political, and people don't understand how much work actually goes into it.
I live in Rill, and I've seen some graffiti on a railway bridge not too far from my house, and personally I think it's quite amazing. I don't find it intimidating whatsoever.
I think sometimes it's vandalism if it's not done right. I think sometimes it's can look alright, can't it?
I think you can work in both ways. I think there's evidence to show that it could be quite artistic if it's in the right context and the right purpose, but I think when people use it as an excuse to sometimes use it as threatening behaviour to other people and sort of show out their gangs or in that sort of context, then it's more criminal and more abusive towards sort of the neighbours and that. So I think there's two sides to the story.
I think it's a bit of both. I think like well done street art really adds some individuality to this dull country, and badly done ones just makes it look even worse.
I suppose street art is more an element of stencil work, sticker work, more a bit like graphic design. Graffiti is more rootsy, it's more like the element of what came out of like the New York subways, and that's more of what I paint really. I've dabbled at having a go with stencils, but I think for me, I prefer going in and painting freehand. So you know, you get the typical kind of like Banksy comments, you know, and him and his stencils and things. I'm not against it. If you want to use stencils to create your piece and it looks good, that's fine. But I think there's also an element that there's a lot of people doing stencils. And someone said a quote where they said, the good thing about stencils, anyone can do them. The bad thing about stencils, anyone can do them. So I think there's a bit of overkill with it. It's different to go back to something that's more rootsy and from more soulful, more creative and skillful in someone painting something. But if it's done well and it looks good, then I'm with that. I'll go with that.